Greetings, everybody. Today we are outside of this beautiful church in St. Paul, Minnesota, and in front of us is a very special object that we are going to share about. But today is April 24th. Today marks 106 years since the tragic happened during World War I, and the tragic that we all know is Armenian Genocide. And today we're going to ask Father Thaddeus, who is going to explain us what happened, how it happened, and share more about pain, tragedy that Armenian people are still experiencing in their hearts today. And they cherish every opportunity and every hope, and they want to carry Father Thaddeus, today we are going to touch the subject about Armenian genocide. This topic is not known to the world, and if someone knows about this event, not everybody knows what is Armenia, how did it happen, what genocide is all about. Can you please share with us about this tragic event that happened 106 years, marked today, April?
Thank you, Lucinda. Today you're right to note that today is a day of remembrance for us when we commemorate the martyrs of the Armenian genocide that happened more than 100 years ago. But the memory is still alive. The story is still alive. We may not have survivors of the Armenian genocide anymore, but we still have the descendants of survivors that kept the memory alive because we are part of that trauma that happened 100 years ago. If you ask any Armenian probably that you meet, especially in the diaspora that is outside of Armenia, Armenian communities outside of Armenia, all of us, we are connected to the Armenian genocide because we all had relatives and family members who were massacred during the Armenian genocide. About 2 million Armenians died during the Armenian genocide. Large part of Armenian population, in fact, died during the Armenian genocide. Just to give historical background, Armenia at the time in 1915 during World War I was divided between Russia and Turkey. And majority of Armenian population was on the Turkish side. That was our homeland. That's where we were born, that's where we were raised, that's where our culture was developed, our heritage, and that's where our history happened too. And in later in Middle Ages, the Turkish tribes, they came and they conquered. As we know, they conquered Byzantium, of course, they conquered Constantinople, and of course all the population there was there, Greeks, Armenians, Assyrians, and others, they were under Turkish control. And of course, being Christians, it was not easy to live under Muslim control because they had to pay higher taxes, their testimony was not accepted in court, they were robbed, they were killed, they were just treated, they were not treated well at all in Turkish Empire. And as people claim that Turkish Empire tolerated all kind of religions, well, that was not, because they had all these minority groups living there before they arrived. So it's not they invited them to live because they were so open and so kind. No, they were there before they arrived. So and Armenians lived there for a long time. Armenians, it was their homeland. During World War I, and it was even before that, there was the agenda of wiping out this population, kind of ethnic cleansing of this population to develop and to have a pure Turkic country, to have pure Turkic nation or empire. So even before the Armenian genocide, before 1915, there were massacres in 1894 and 96. In fact, that's when part of my family escaped, and that's when part of my family came to Russia and Armenia, and part of my family survived. Massacres of Abdul Hamid, who was the Sultan at the time. In 1911, there was a revolution, and Armenians supported that revolution because they believed that these new young Turks, as they were called, young Turks, they'll bring salvation, they'll bring freedom to people. Unfortunately, they became perpetrators of the Armenian genocide. During World War I, 1915, they claimed that Armenian population need to be deported, need to leave their villages and towns because there was an imminent threat to them. which was not true, and they also claimed that Armenians are working against Turkish Empire. They are kind of conspiring with Russians against the empire, and Russians, they were enemies of Turkey at the time, and Turkey was losing everything in this war, and they had to find somebody to blame everything on. So these minorities, they became an easy target to be blamed. So Armenians were deported, and most of the people died during those deportations, as we call them, death march.
Yes.
So they were attacked during this death march. Men first, during serving in the Turkish Empire, Turkish army, they were taken out of Turkish army. They were disarmed, and they were killed. And then men in the village, they were taken out of village and they were killed. And then elders, women, elderly, women and children, they were left. So they were put on a death march, and thousands of people, about 2 million people died during this nation because of starvation, because of attacks, because of killing. They were just brutal to Armenian population, Armenian people. Some of them ended up in Syrian desert, and it's interesting that during this, unfortunately, these attacks and terrorist group ISIS when emerged, and population in Syria was attacked, in Iraq, the same the population in those areas, they again ended up in the same desert called Deir Zor, El Deir Zor. So Armenians lived there 100 years ago in this desert, and Armenian refugees lived there 100 years later. Syrian refugees and other refugees, they ended up in the same place. So when people think that, or people may assume that, well, it's been 100 years, it's time to move on. Well, first of all, the wound is still open because there is no recognition of the Armenian genocide. Turkey hasn't recognized, the United States hasn't recognized officially either. Although both Congress and Senate last year, overwhelmingly, they adopted resolutions about the Armenian genocide, recognizing the Armenian genocide. So that was a major step. However, the wound is open because Turkey, the perpetrators, they never accepted their guilt. They never apologized, and there was no reconciliation ever. And it's important to remember because, as we can see, history tends to repeat itself. So 100 years later, we see the same thing happening. So today, as we come together to remember, to commemorate, it has a global appeal as well, because our hope is that this thing will never happen again. The word genocide was coined after Armenian genocide. It was formed by Raphael Lemkin to describe what happened to Armenians, what happened to us. And if Armenian genocide was condemned properly after it happened, probably Holocaust wouldn't have occurred either. When Hitler asked if he's not concerned about the condemnation of people afterwards, he said, who remembers the Armenians? Who remembers the annihilation of Armenians? So remembrance is important, condemnation is important, prevention is important for us.
What message would you like to share with the nation, right now with the world? Now everybody is trying to find their spot, their voice. Everyone is fighting for the authority, for their place, for the control. What would you like to tell the world about the hope and the message?
Well, the message is the simple one from our martyrs, from our survivors, that although they went through these horrible, tragic things that happened to them, they saw their family members being killed, massacred, beheaded, but they're still walking on that death march and hoping that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. They had hope still that they're going to survive and to create a new life for themselves and for their family members. For anybody who is interested, who wants to learn more, I think one thing to learn is the perseverance of these people, hope and faith of these people, and to be inspired by the example of survivors of the Armenian Genocide.
Thank you so much, Father
You're welcome.
Thaddeus, for your time that you have shared with us about the significant event that happened in our history, that not everybody knows, that it has been not recognized, and the pain is still there, the cry is still there, and remembrance is still there. I want to ask God to bless Armenians and comfort us, the descendant of the survivors, and use us to illuminate this world, and not to carry the pain, but to carry the joy, somehow to carry the light and say, hey guys, our lives are valuable. Let us protect our lives because life is a gift of God.
Amen. It is indeed. Thank you, listener, for your message.